Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Robins Report podcast with me, Tom Wade, sponsored by Luke 1977. The link is in the bio. If you haven't heard of Luke, I don't know where you've been, because it's what I always go on about when we start. But yeah, thanks to you guys. You can go to luke1977.com and shop their spring summer collection and buy a shirt just like this one. And if your dreams to be like me, then there you go. You've got the opportunity. But yeah, thanks to you guys. Really appreciate it. As you can see, joining me again this week alongside me is Gloucestershire Lives and I'd say the Robin Reports podcast regular now, Mr. John Palmer. John, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Tom. Nice trim. I am long overdue one myself. Hopefully, be getting one in the next week or so. But yeah, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant to see you, mate. And yeah, it was long overdue. I mean, it was getting a bit ridiculous. I went for a walk on Monday at the Malvern Hills, and I nearly took off. So I said to the wife, "It's time. It's time to come off." But yeah, it's the perks of getting out of this thing, right?
Yeah, a lot's changed since our last podcast, hasn't it? Because things are starting to hopefully move in the right direction, and people can have a meal and a drink outside, can't they? And have a haircut inside, so it's starting to look a bit more positive.
Yeah, definitely, 100% agree with you. Right, John, I'm ready to crack on because our first topic is one that I'm sure that you are going to love, and I'm very, very interested in hearing a lot about it. So, today's date is, the recording of this pod is the 22nd of April. But more importantly, 22 years ago to the day, our great club secured its first ever promotion to the Football League. And a bit of background on the game for the younger guys. Basically, Town went into the game against Yeovil, needing a win to secure it. Game started, and I've actually had to write the notes down because unfortunately, or fortunately, because I'm still young enough, I don't actually remember a lot. So, so Owen Pickard gave Yeovil the lead after 2 minutes in the game. And then just 2 minutes later, one of the legends of this club, Jamie Victory, popped up, brought Town level. And then it was on to another legend to put us in front just before half-time, Neil Grayson with a Neil Grayson type header. So I've seen today because I had to go back through the archives and find it. 2-1 at half-time. And this is the thing that makes me love this and remembering this day, because the man that is joining me was there and experienced everything. JP, just talk me through the lead up to the game and the first half and how you were feeling at half-time, knowing that this club was on the brink of greatness.
It was an unbelievable night. We got to remember, Cheltenham still had 3 games left after this, so they still had to go to Hayes, Northwich, Victoria, and then Welling at home. So they didn't have to win that game, but there was this feeling that there was this feeling around the place. Let's get it done now, because it was still pretty tight. Yeovil still had an outside shout. It would have been an incredible finish to the season if they were going to get in there, but they weren't too far off it. I remember selling programs, as I always did at the time before the game, with my mate Jack. So we were selling programs outside. I think they were £1.50 a pop, and we sold a huge amount of programs. I mean, the official attendance is down as 6,150, but there's no doubt there was a lot more people than that inside the stadium. If you ask anyone who was there, obviously the ground's changed a bit, and it was mostly terracing then, but there was no space. It just seemed like there was people on top of people everywhere. It just felt like 10,000 in there. People almost sort of spilling out. I wouldn't say it ever looked dangerously busy, but there were people spilling out on every terrace. It was absolutely packed, and there was loads of other little bits of drama. So Pickard, who you mentioned, who scored the first goal for Yeovil, Steve Cottrell tried to sign him in the summer of '97. He's very close to signing, ended up going to Yeovil, so that was quite interesting. And Cheltenham ended up signing Dale Watkins instead, and I think they got the better player, but they did try for Owen Pickard. Then you mentioned Jamie Victory. So Jamie Victory scored the equaliser. Then he gave away the penalty early in the second half, which we'll talk a bit more about the second half, I'm sure. But it was an unbelievably dramatic night. Huge crowd. There was a little bit of leeway, so Cheltenham weren't under massive pressure like they have been in certain games, such as the Doncaster game. They only had one chance. They had to get it right. The playoff final games, the FA Trophy final, they've done it when they've had to. But I think this game was 19 days after the Rushden game, where Cheltenham came back from 1-0 down to win 2-1. And those two games, that April 99, are probably two of the most important days in Cheltenham Town's history to this day, because without that promotion, Cheltenham are now in their 21st season as a Football League club, 22 years since promotion, but obviously dropped out for 1 year. So to have got in there and pretty much sustained it for the last 2 decades, to give the town league football, that night was the start of the transformation from the players having jobs and just training a couple of nights a week to becoming full-time professionals with a full professional academy set up, scholarship set up to try and bring young lads through. And it all started with that night against Yeovil. So in terms of pivotal days in the club's history, I think that's up there. And it was also just an unbelievable game of football, enthralling from the start to finish. And what happened towards the end, I'll just never forget it. It's one of those dates that's I always remember it every year. It's like the 3rd of April Rushden, the 22nd of April Yeovil. I will always remember those 2 dates in April 99 and the celebrations that followed.
Yeah, it was incredible. And you mentioned there, so Town 2-1 up at half-time. Just after half-time, Jamie Victory gives away a penalty. Warren Patmore steps up, puts it away. Yeovil back on level terms. What are you thinking at that point? You're thinking, it seems like they hit, we hit, they hit, and then we need to now hit back again and to get it done. Or like you said, there wasn't really much pressure. It'd just be another day, but it was all that sense of let's just go and get it done. We've got an opportunity, get it done. So what were you thinking at 2-2?
I was thinking that Hayes away was a difficult trip because they were decent. They finished, I think, 3rd or 4th in the end, and that was on the Saturday. And then Northwich was on the Tuesday and Welling was on the Saturday. So even though there were 3 games, it was very quick turnaround. The Cheltenham, they got to the trophy semi-finals. They got to the League Cup, Conference League Cup semi-finals. They had a lot of fixtures, and I was worried that they might run out of steam. So I felt like the job needed to get done that night. So even though they could have done it at Hayes or Northwich, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as well. At Wadden Road, in front of that crowd, I was thinking the job needs to be done tonight. But I think Cheltenham absolutely battered Yeovil in the second half. After that penalty from Patmore, I just remember my memories of the game are obviously incredibly nervous, but just Tony Pennock, who's in goal for Yeovil, pulling off double save after double save, kept a few efforts out from Grayson. Lee Howells had a particularly good game, but they just couldn't find a way through. Tried everything. It was pretty muddy. It wasn't a great pitch in those days. It was a bit of a battle, but Cheltenham were definitely, they were pushing and pushing and pushing. After the Yeovil penalty, I can't remember Steve Book having much to do. And then Keith Knight came on, I think. Keith Knight came on from the bench. And it was just one-way traffic, completely battering them. Their fans were under what is now the Colin Farmer stand, used to be obviously a terrace, and they let a flare off. So I just remember this bright light coming out of that underneath that terrace, and the Yeovil fans were making a lot of noise. Obviously, it's one of their more local games, and there was a brilliant atmosphere in there. But both ends, I'm pretty sure both ends were full of Cheltenham fans. I was at what is now the Speedy Skip / Prestbury Road end.
Yeah.
The dramatic moment happened at the other end, but I remember seeing it from where I was, sort of at the back of the terrace. There was no cover on it in those days. It was just an uncovered terrace. And I remember Cheltenham winning a free kick, must have been 96th, 97th minute, and thinking it just felt like it was still possible, even though there were seconds left.
Yeah. And they were down to 10 men at that point as well, weren't they?
They were clinging on. If it wasn't for the goalkeeper, I think Cheltenham would have won 4 or 5-2. But he was unbelievable, Tony Pennock. He was actually ended up, I think he was on the bench for the playoff final against Rushden in 2002. And I remember his name popping up again then. But at that point, he was one of the best goalkeepers in non-league football. And they couldn't beat him until probably 97th minute.
That 97th minute. Wow. I mean, what a moment. That just must have been absolutely crazy. So Town get a free kick, as you said, seconds to go. Probably the last opportunity they're going to get. Or else, like you said, it's going to go down to one of the next games. So up steps the man who is known as Chief Duff now. He's in there, and he's told, as he mentioned today in his press conference, I think you asked him actually, didn't you? He trotted on up. Never one to go up, as he said, but he threw himself up there. And the ball comes in. And legend has it they're still arguing about it now, whether it come off Duffy, whether it come off Jamie Victory. But no matter which one it came off, I think it doesn't really matter, does it? The ball goes in the back of the net, and probably the greatest moment in Cheltenham Town's history was created right then. Just to describe how you were feeling and how it was after that.
This was before the days of the fourth official putting up the injury time, so nobody in the ground had any idea how long was left. But I think everyone knew it was pretty much game up, game over. So Keith Knight, who always put a good ball in, Cheltenham lad, still lives in Sherdington, I believe. So that's a nice little story, although there weren't that many local lads in the team then anyway. But Keith Knight swung it in. And in terms of the Duff or Victory, there's all sorts of different theories on this. I've watched it so many times. I've tried to slow it down. We've got a picture of it on the Echo archives of the both of them going up for the ball. Like you said, Tom, it went into the back of the net. But it's fascinating. On the night, the Echo gave it to Jamie Victory. So Derek Goddard, who was reporting on the game, it went down in the next day's paper as Jamie Victory's goal. So Jamie went down as having scored twice. Now, some people say Duff headed Victory's head and Victory headed the ball. Some people say that Victory headed Duff's head and Duff headed the ball. If you look at the trajectory of the ball, I have to say it looked like Duff. But Jamie Victory is not the type of guy to make it up. Jamie Victory isn't the type of guy to claim a goal if he didn't genuinely believe he headed it. And he's a very calm and cool character. So he sort of celebrated very calmly, whereas Duff ran off and got absolutely piled on by his teammates. Absolutely unbelievable scenes of celebration. So immediately I thought Jamie Victory scored it and the Echo gave it to Jamie Victory. It's now officially gone down in the record books as Michael Duff. But I absolutely love the fact that they're both I think they're good mates, so I don't think they're going to fall out about it. But I think they both genuinely still think they scored the goal that got Cheltenham Town to the Football League. It was a great story for Duff because he'd come through the youth setup. He was still a trainee at the time, and he, like you said, he wasn't one of Cheltenham's really at that point. He wasn't one of Cheltenham's main aerial threats. Mark Freeman would have been one of the main aerial threats. Jamie Victory was very good in the air, and obviously Grayson, who was unbelievable in the air for his height. But Duff went up and it bounced down. It was just a lovely sight to see it hit the back of the net. 97th minute, and then next thing I know, I was doing what I always used to call a Klinsmann dive on the pitch, just diving in the mud on the pitch after the final whistle. And then you'll have seen the clips, but the whole of the what seemed like the whole of Cheltenham were on the pitch, looking up to the stands, just like the lads did in 2016. All the players came up the front of the stands, so they were singing, spraying champagne around. It was great for Paul Baker because he'd only been chairman for a couple of years and he'd seen an FA Trophy win and a conference win. Obviously, Cottrell, Cheltenham lad, second promotion for him. And suddenly, I think Paul Baker would be thinking, right, this is great, but now we've got to go full time. This is going to take some serious work now. The ground needs improving. The players need to be given full-time contracts. We're going to need to sign some more players ready for this step up. But what an adventure. And it made a huge impact around the town, the fact that Cheltenham Town had got into the Football League.
Yeah.
Brilliant that Cheltenham Town got back into the Football League in 2016. That was an amazing achievement. But to do it for the first time in terms of impact on the whole club, the stand was given an overhaul, the old main stand. Executive boxes were put in. The tunnel was moved from the corner of the pitch into where it is now in the middle.
Yeah.
The pitch went from being a bit of a shambles to being the best in the league under Mike Heather. And every single part of the club had been dragged by the scruff of the neck by Steve Cottrell, well supported by Paul Baker, from being part-time and being in the Southern League to suddenly beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Because we, as fans, we never thought, we just happy to be in the conference, really. Yeah. 2 years in there and we were going up again. It was unbelievable and just magical times. Yeah,
it is. And I find myself saying it very, very consistently, especially recently. It's laid the foundations for where we are today. If it wasn't for that and that period, we would not be. Well, you don't know. You can't say we wouldn't be where we are today. But that, for me, started it all for this journey for the club. And a lot of credit goes to the guys that put the work in back then. And like you said, it wasn't just on the pitch; it was everything else that came with it, all the improvements and all the dedication, the hard work that went in. Because it's all right getting here, but it's maintaining it. And you have to say, yes, there's been one down, but ever since then, that history created that night has followed on, and that's why we find ourselves where we are today.
Yeah, and only one team went up in those days. There was no playoffs. You had to
Yeah.
win the league. It was one of the hardest leagues to get out of. And as I mentioned earlier, off camera before we started, the celebrations in the bar was one of those great nights where all the players were in there.
Yeah.
Steve Cottrell was in there. All the staff were in there, and we were all in there till 6. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think I got home about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. It was just one of those unbelievable nights.
Yeah, and it deserved it, didn't it?
Michael Duff was wearing a polo shirt with a tie, which was an interesting look.
That's a good one.
And he was singing songs, like people were standing on tables. It was just one of those brilliant nights that anyone who was there, anyone who's old enough to remember it, will never forget it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm glad I didn't experience it, but like I said, way before my time, to be honest with you. But yeah, I've had my experiences after that. But I think we can both agree 99 is a year that will just never be forgotten.
Yeah, paved the way for the town having a football league club now and fully professional. And yeah, it was the beginning of a new era, really. That.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So we'll leave that one where it is just for a moment, because I have got something else a little bit later on for you on that one. But let's get to a little bit of the now. So there we go. There's our little pop-up. So let's talk about, obviously, the Stevenage game. You were there, as always. What did you make of this one? Because for me, I'll give my opinion later, but it just seemed like another monumental moment in this season. And I mean, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't comfortable at all. But thanks to Oeorge Lloyd, his 5th goal of the season, we hung on and claimed a huge win at Stevenage, which going into the game, I didn't think was possible. So let's do a little bit on the Stevenage game here now. JP, what were your thoughts about this one?
It felt like a big one. Felt like a massive stride towards promotion, really, because of what happened at Crawley. Crawley was a bit disappointing. The first half performance of Stevenage I thought was good. Brilliant finish from Oeorge Lloyd. Good ball in from Connor Thomas. I had a suspicion after the Crawley game that Lloyd was going to get a recall. I just felt like he'd been so unlucky to get his head injury against Crewe and then another head injury against Exeter when he played the first half and he was looking quite good. He's a freak, Oeorge Lloyd, in the fact that he looks quite small, but he's unbelievably strong. He's got a great leap on him. He's almost like Grayson-like in that he's 2 strikers in one, really, because he's got a bit of quality, but he also batters defenders around that are much bigger than him. So he's brave. He's brave, and that's probably why he's been unlucky with 2 concussions this season, because he is so brave. But the way he took the ball down from Connor Thomas is when Connor Thomas, just before Connor Thomas gets the ball, you hear Duff shout, "Lloydie." And the ball in was brilliant, but Lloydie, to bring it down his chest and finish the way he did, real moment of quality. His 5th Football League goal, all of which would come away from home, but Michael was playing that down. Obviously, he has scored a couple of cup goals at home.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'd like to get that first league goal at home, but who cares? Brilliant reward for his hard work, really. And him and Sam Smith linked up well. Smith was involved in the goal as well.
Yeah.
And then second half was pretty much attack against defence. I don't really remember Josh Griffiths having a huge amount of saves to make. Maybe 1. And I also don't really remember Cheltenham having that many attacks in the second half, but they were so well organised. It was a perfect example. Michael Duff said they took great confidence from the way they defended against Man City, and the players decided to go 4-5-1 or 5-4-1. Sorry, 5-4-1 for the last 15 minutes or so, and just soak it up. And Hussey, Long, Tozer, Raglan, Blair, just faultless, really, defensively. And then Connor Thomas had a really good game. Sercombe had a decent game. He had a couple of efforts saved. Still think there's a goal coming for him very soon. But the front two, and Finn Azaz back in the team as well. It was just a good all round. It was just grinding it out in the second half. Very little sign of a second goal coming, but I never really thought Stevenage were going to score. They had one ball in from the right, which Matty Blair sort of got underneath it, and then Raglan made a really good job block from Aitchison.
Great
That was
block.
the one moment
Yeah.
I thought that was the big chance really. But after that, they sought out really well. Just showed how well organised. It wasn't a brilliantly flowing football performance, but it was just Duff has got them so well drilled defensively, and it was really pleasing to see the front two both involved in the goal and put in a good performance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, absolutely, they were drilled, weren't they? Just so disciplined. It's discipline. That's what will. When you play a game, when you decide to set up like that and give yourself and put that confidence in yourself, it's all about discipline. I think it was a start to finish very disciplined job. Obviously, I put my predicted lineup out before Town released it, and I did say I thought that Lloyd and Azaz could come in, and lo and behold, I didn't put them in my predicted one, and they did. But that's whatever. It's not gone well on my fan hub, so it's took me on a hit on there. But yeah, 3 changes. Obviously, Smith, Lloyd, Azaz came in for Williams, May, and Wright. The biggest one for me was May. I thought, again, obviously, he did it against Exeter, didn't he? When May come off the bench, and I said that Exeter, by the time May come on, it was shaped for him to come in and dominate and get on the ball and be a bit of a nuisance. But I felt this one, that was probably what Duffy wanted to do. He wanted to kind of wind him down and then bring him in off the bench. And obviously give Lloydie and Smith a good chance because, like we've mentioned Exeter twice. I've mentioned it loads of times. I keep going back to it because that's when they started together last. And you said, and I agree with you when you say he was unfortunate to get his head injury because I feel they really could have done really did up until the point he come off at half time. Played really well and they worked really well off each other. I think he deserved his goal, Lloyd, and it was a justified decision. And it's good for Duffy to have that option to mix it up. He could go with Smith and Lloyd. He can go with Smith and May. He could go with Smith and Williams. He could go with May and Williams as he did against Crawley. I think that's good because it keeps them all on their toes. And I think Lloyd's put his hat in the ring now to say where Michael Duff spoke consistently about I need somebody to stand up, and he did that. And he took his goal very, very well. And I mentioned earlier, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't comfortable, but it was disciplined. They got the job done. Where historically they go to Stevenage and don't really come back with a lot of change. I think what was before that they've only ever won once in the last 6, was it? That was on penalties, I believe.
Yeah, 5 Football League defeats in a row. Yeah. So only ever won there in non-league. And the last one was on penalties. So they were due one, and it was they probably picked the right time to do it when they're going for promotion. So it was absolutely. Stevenage are decent now. Stevenage have got much better since January, and they might be half decent next season, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. They gave us a test. Okay, they didn't have many dangerous opportunities, and like you mentioned, Raglan put a hell of a block in on one of their attempts, and that was just one of them moments where you thought this would be the day. This is our day. This is the day we put that right, and it just complements them on what they're about to achieve in terms of years ago that probably wouldn't have happened. That's going in the back of the net, or years ago we probably would have come away with a 0-0 draw. But I thought we deserved it. I thought we played really well first half. Second half made me so uncomfortable. I was behind the sofa after about 60 minutes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't want us to sit back and invite them on, but we did. We did it very comfortably, and I was very, very happy. And another big moment, and a huge step towards that massive automatic achievement that is very much looking good right now.
Yeah.
But I'm chuffed to bits that they come away with this one.
Everyone else won as well, didn't they? Up there, so it was obviously Exeter and Forest Green drew, which is probably a better result for Forest Green than it was for Exeter because it keeps them at arm's length, Exeter. Yeah. But every other team up there won, didn't they? So it was even more important. But it's just inching closer to the line now with 2 home games to look forward to. Yeah,
it's another box ticked, isn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah, but you're right. With everybody else, I forgot about that as well. Everybody else did the job around us, and it was nice for us to get the job done as well. And absolutely huge win. So let's look forward to this weekend then, because as you can see from my little box, I've put we can edge ever so closer to automatic promotion. Now, I understand before we get into it, anybody watching, I understand all the maths on this one, but it's all ifs and buts. So let's just go with how I think it's going to play out. And if you think differently, as always, we encourage fan interaction. Drop it below and tell me I'm wrong and tell me what you think. But Town host Colchester at the Jonny-Rocks this Saturday. With a win, knowing a win will get them ever so closer. But before we look at this one, let's look at the last game, because I think it's important to go back and look. So the last meeting was on December 29th, played out a 0-0 draw. And this is why I'm mentioning it, because I think this part's important. Town absolutely dominated this game. I think they had 14 shots to Colchester's 5, 4 on target. Colchester had 1 on target. Dominated possession, much the better team. And granted, we were away, but we just couldn't find the net. And it came in a period, actually, I was looking, where we were actually picking up draws left, right and centre, and we were struggling to score. We weren't really conceding. I looked at that and I thought, and I looked at Colchester's recent results of the fact they've won 2 of their last 5. Both of them are the last 2 games, both at home though. Walsall and Southend, 2 teams that are not really in the position that we are, probably not as good as us, but it's still something that you have to think about, because you look at their position in the table. That, again, I think Michael Duff will mention this. It doesn't complement the side that they are. We know who they are. We've played them out. And they know they can take it. They know they can take what we can give them. So this one is why I've put Edge ever closer. JP, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Colchester away. I remember Matty Blair coming off injured quite early on. And luckily he wasn't out for very long. I think he came back in the next game. But it was, for some reason, as Michael Duff said in the press conference, it hasn't quite happened for Colchester this season. But they will have enjoyed that result against Southend in midweek. They're Essex rivals, because that result basically keeps them out of any relegation trouble, and it's now looking very much like it's going to be Grimsby and Southend going down, isn't it? Barrow have got a little cushion.
I think Grimsby would have to win every game. Colchester would have to lose every game, and it's not going to happen, is it?
So we know obviously Harry Pell is going to be coming back. Sounds like he was heavily involved. Obviously scored on Tuesday and was heavily involved in the game. They're not as effective for some reason. Actually, Stevenage have got a couple of ex-Colchester lads, haven't they? Prosser and Norris up front, Prosser at the back, who's captain. They got ex-Colchester, but they're not the force they were, the team that got to the playoff semi-finals last year in terms of league position, but most of the same players still there. Obviously had a couple of managerial changes. Nobody ever likes to say it's going to be easy, do they? I just feel confident that Cheltenham are going to get a result on Saturday. I feel the way they played to grind it out in midweek, back at home, everyone fit apart from the 2 long-term injuries, which is Boyle and Clements. I just think it's there for the taking. I think they're so determined to get the job done now. Yeah. With two home games, Saturday, Tuesday, I'm just feeling very confident ahead of Saturday. They're not going to struggle with the pressure at all. No,
I think they can deal with it. But if you're looking at a bit of an interesting stat on this game. So in the last 5 meetings between the two sides, Town have won 1, drawn 2, and lost 2. But the last home win against Colchester was September 2016. Goals from Kevin Dawson, Mo Isa, and Jamie Grimes secured the 3 points for Town that day. But the fun fact that I saw in this, from that squad, only 2 players remain. Can you guess them?
Boyle and Flinders.
Yes. The only 2 that remain from that match day squad. I'm sure a couple of the other lads were probably in the actual squad. From that match day squad, just Boyle and Flinders remain. And I just thought we haven't won at home since 2016. They've won back-to-back games, albeit at home. You know, we met them in earlier in the season, and it was a tough game. You know, they've obviously got a fight in them, and obviously you mentioned Harry Powell coming back. He'll be determined, I'm sure, in a nice way to put his touch on this game. But you know, they've won 2 of their last 5. Like, as I mentioned, we're so close to getting this done. I like to agree with you. I think I'm not going to say it like you said. It's not. No, you can't just sit here and say, "Oh yeah, it's an automatic win. It's going to be easy." It's probably not going to be easy. But I think we will get the job done, and it will set us up nicely for Tuesday night. JP, can I get a prediction from you?
Yeah, Michael Duff will ban any talk of this in the changing room for the lads, but because they'll just be trying to win the next half. But I think the results of the next 2, I think, will take Cheltenham over the line before they go to Newport. Yeah. So I'm going to go for 2-1 win. I don't think it'll be easy, but I think they'll just edge it 2-1 on Saturday, which will obviously leave it very much in their own hands ahead of the Carlisle game on Tuesday night. So 2-1 Cheltenham.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I had it down as 2-1 as well. You mentioned Carlisle. Let's go to that one. And this is the one. This is the one I'm looking forward to. I mean, talk about set it up. How much could we talk this one up? Obviously, all this can change. You know, things don't go right on Saturday. Everything I'm about to say and everything we're about to talk about in the potential could all change. But town host Carlisle on Tuesday night. And I've said it there. Will this be the night they get it sealed? JP, you mentioned you think it will be. They'll get over the line. I think it will be. But first and foremost, we have to remember this. Half by half.
Yeah.
There's still two halves. There's two halves of football to play before you even get to it.
If Michael Duff was in charge, we wouldn't have been able to mention the Carlisle game yet, would we?
I
was running this podcast.
Oh God, I think I'd be kicked off by now. I've been kicked off weeks ago. Like last week when I said we're going to win the league. But yeah, no, Carlisle. Again, it's just a different one, isn't it? With Carlisle, completely the opposite compared to Colchester. You know, I think have they got an outside chance in the playoffs? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure they have. I mean, they're 5 points off Newport with 3 games to go. After us, it'd be 2. I'm not saying the season's over, but this is why I think it's the one that will get it sealed because, you know, I think they're playing just for pride now, aren't they?
They've fallen away actually quite badly, Carlisle. They were right up there.
Yeah.
Halfway through the season, they actually had a good position for top 3 push, but they've fallen away. But it's been quite a significant club.
They've drawn 3 of the last 4 and won only once.
So they're difficult to beat. You can look at it that way, but it's no relevance to this week's games, especially Tuesday night. But Cheltenham beat Carlisle in 1933, first ever win over a Football League club in the FA Cup, and they didn't beat another Football League club in the FA Cup until the year 2000. Wow! Cheltenham's relegation from League One in 2009 was so the last time Cheltenham got relegated from League One was sealed after a 1-1 draw at home to Carlisle. So it'd be quite nice to seal promotion back to League One against Carlisle United. And the last couple of times Cheltenham have gone up was done at home, wasn't it? It was done at home under Gary Johnson with a win over Halifax. It was done at home against Yeovil 22 years ago today. Obviously, we've seen playoff promotions since then as well. But in terms of winning promotions from leagues without needing to go through the playoffs, it's been done at home. It was also done at home in 85 under John Murphy in the Southern League. It was away in 97 under Steve Cottrell at Burton to get runners-up, place to go up. But it is nicer, sadly no fans there, but it would be nicer for the players and staff to do it at Wadden Road, I think. Get the job done. Take the pressure off the Newport game. Yeah. And then go to Newport trying to win the title rather than still worrying about trying to get into the top 3. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Well, Carlisle's last away win actually came a month ago, at the start of the month, 2-0 away to Southend. So that just shows you, I think they played, 2 or 3 away games since then. So they haven't got a great form. Obviously, the reverse fixture at the start of the season, we beat them 2-1. Will Boyle, or as always, who else would it be? Will Boyle, Connor Thomas penalty, both in the first half. Obviously, they equalised in the first half. So we won the first half, draw the second. That's for you, Michael Duff. So we still got the job done, and that's a hard place to go as well. Travel all that far, travel all that way. That's a hard place to go. But yeah, I mean, we've won 3 of the last 4 against them. I think we've only lost once. I think that was back last season. I think it was the away game last year. I believe 2 seasons. One there last season. Last season's win there was the first win at Carlisle since 33. That's it. Cheltenham won the last 2 there, so they've ended that run and got a couple of wins at Carlisle now. But it's a hell of a trip, isn't it? For whichever way you're going, it's for Cheltenham, it's always the longest trip of the season. Great result to go up there and get a win. And I remember the home performance last season was really good actually. Quite early on, it was one of those because Cheltenham weren't sure. Start of last season, Cheltenham had improved under Duff, but were they just going to be mid-table,
Yeah.
or were they going to be actually a force? And I think that performance against Carlisle last season was one of those games where we thought that this is starting to look like a really good team now.
Yeah, it was a marker, wasn't it? It was one of the markers put down saying, right, this is who we are, this is who we're going to be. And I think you're right. It changed the course of where we were, well, our trajectory, and look at where we are now. But yeah, again, same as Colchester. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I've got full confidence that I'm going to answer that question in the box there. I'm going to say this will be the night where we seal automatics, and it's going to be one hell of a night. Unfortunately, I'll be in Ireland somewhere celebrating, so maybe with a pint of Guinness. I've actually got a little something, so when it does happen, I'm not going to give away too much. And I've also got something else that I want to do as well. So please, guys, get this done. But yeah, predictions, JP, for this one.
Well, two things we know for certain: win the next two, Cheltenham are going up. Win the next four, Cheltenham are champions. That's we know that. So Morecambe are playing Bolton this weekend. Makes it.
How big is that game, by the way?
Well, it's brilliant for Cheltenham. I think Morecambe have probably got the lowest budget in the division.
Yeah.
So for them to even be thinking about the top three with 3 or 4 games left is unbelievable. I think whatever the result there, I think Cheltenham will beat Colchester and beat Carlisle. I think back-to-back wins, which make it 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Just at the right time. I feel like the fitness levels are good, the energy levels are good, the mindset is good, the spirit is unbelievable. You could see that in the second half at Stevenage. Yeah. Matty Blair was playing like a man possessed at Stevenage. He was so fired up for it.
He was great,
this guy, 31 years old, plays like with the enthusiasm of a teenager. So quick.
Yeah.
Gets onto people in a positive way. There's so many characters like that in the team, even without Will Boyle, who was there obviously helping out as well. But there's so many leaders out there, and that's what you need, I think, to get you over the line. There's not many of them that are just. There's not many of them that will hide away, if any. You know, they're all front up, and I think I actually really enjoyed the second half, despite it being a bit nervy on Tuesday. Yeah. I watched the second half performance, and I thought this team, there's just no way they're going to let it slip away.
It's just organised, isn't it?
The promotion chance. It's just they've worked so hard this season, and a win on Saturday, by the way, Tom.
Yeah.
Would take Cheltenham to 78, which would equal the best points total. So anything, provided it's a good result on Saturday, anything against Carlisle will be another little record. I know these things don't. This thing won't bother Michael Duff. Michael Duff won't care how many points Cheltenham go up with, but it's just shows how in the most difficult seasons, Cheltenham have never got this. Well, they're on course to get more points than they ever have done in a League Two season, which is testament to the way that they've been at it all season.
It's fantastic, isn't it? And it's mad to think that on a normal season, that will get you in the playoffs. That will get you in the playoffs easily. You know, and that's like we are. Well, we are where we are, aren't we? We're in the top 3. That amount of points is putting down your chances of going up automatically. But what I find fascinating is the fact that we're going to potentially make history, not only in around the same time as 99, 22 years ago, but we're going to do it by, you know, smashing our points record for the most points we've ever achieved. And it just seems weird, you know. It just seems so coincidental, doesn't it? That the fact of there's history for the players now, it's the opportunity. There's your history. You go and be a part of it. And I think you're right. And the fact of they won't let this slip. It would take an absolute mess for something to go wrong here, I think.
Yeah. I don't think Cheltenham are reliant on any one person either. So Will Boyle is a big miss, but Sean Long's been superb.
Yeah.
There's been injuries to Hussey. There's been injuries to Circum. Josh Griffiths has been away on international duty. They've got the players to come in now. The bench is strong.
Yeah.
But to do it 2 years in a row, to be in the playoffs, potentially, if the season had finished, sneaking into the top 3, and then this season to be in and around the top 3, near the top of the table all season. You know, look at Exeter are consistent, but Colchester fallen away badly this season. Mm-hmm. Forest Green did well to get in the playoffs in 17-18. Last season, they fell away badly. It's not easy to do it 2 years in a row. Forest Green have recovered, and they're obviously back in there with a chance this season. But to do it 2 seasons in a row, when you have the disappointment of missing out, it's a real difficult mental battle, I think, to get yourself going again.
Yeah, and mentally they've smashed it.
Yeah. They are a mentally strong group.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. So, predictions for this one?
I'm going to predict I predicted 2-1 Colchester, and I'm going to predict 2-0 against Carlisle.
Yeah,
Solid 2-0 win.
Yeah, I like that idea, but I still think it's going to be another nervy one. So I'm actually going to go 3-1. But I think it'll be 1-1 around half time. We'll a bit like 99. I'm not going to go all there going, it's going to be exactly carbon copy, but it's going to be, I think it'll be 1-1 half time. We'll score midway and then we'll seal it at the end, and that'll be history made. And let the chase for this title, first ever League Two title, commence, because I think we are still in the driving seat regardless of what's above us right now in Cambridge, even though they're a fantastic team, by the way, I have to say.
Yeah,
but
if they win on Saturday, they know they're promoted. They need one win.
They're up, aren't they? Yeah.
So well done to them, because Cambridge, Morecambe, not big spenders.
Yeah.
Bolton done well. Bolton have done well, but you'd expect them to be up there. Tranmere have got a decent, Tranmere have got recent League One history. Obviously, they've been up there recently.
Yeah.
But
look at
there's a lot of people punching above their weight. Yeah, Salford have obviously got the financial clout.
Yeah.
So there's Cheltenham, Morecambe, Cambridge have upset the apple cart really a little bit.
And it's great to see. I love it. Yeah, I love seeing that. I think it's brilliant. So with that one, let's go to the best part of the show. I know everybody looks forward to this one every week. Now, I keep mentioning 99, going back to it, because I think it's so important to remember it, especially as we are in the position we are right now. Channel all the former greats, and you're in a good place. So, fan questions. First one from our good friend, actually, Gav Garthwaite. I love it when Gav comes on because he puts some serious thought into this. So here we go. He asked, John, do you think the win over Yeovil on this day in 1999 was the team's greatest ever day? I know we touched on it a bit earlier, actually.
Yeah, I think the Rushden and the Yeovil game are very difficult to separate in terms of, without the Rushden game, we probably wouldn't have had the Yeovil game. But the Yeovil game was not only a brilliant game with all the drama, that was the one that actually clinched it. So it's so difficult to pick the two. One of those two games is my favourite Cheltenham game of all time, but I sometimes change my mind which one's which. But the Yeovil game was, like we covered it earlier. It's a good question from Gav, but we might have answered this question earlier, but I think that was the pivotal moment in the club's history. All those years from 1887 to 1999 of being semi-pro or amateur and then semi-pro, players having jobs, training twice a week, all the players and managers that helped Cheltenham get to that point. Think about how many hundreds and thousands of clubs there are in the country that want to be where Cheltenham got to, that can't get there. That how many good clubs there are that can't get back into the Football League. So for Cheltenham were the best team in non-league football, and they'd never really been a big club in non-league football before that. There were so many bigger clubs in the league. Rushden had all the money. You had Doncaster in there who'd come down. You had people like Kidderminster Harriers, big clubs. Woking were a decent club that kept winning the FA Trophy. And Cheltenham just came from nowhere. Kettering were another one that were always bigger than Cheltenham. And just did it. Nobody saw it coming, really. Before Steve Cottrell took over, nobody saw it coming. I think the Rushden and the Yeovil games combined are Cheltenham's greatest ever. Those couple of weeks were what changed the course of history, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, it laid the foundation, didn't it? I think I completely agree with this one. I think I agree with you.
I think Gav was there that night as well, 99, if I remember correctly.
He was, I believe. I tried to get him on to talk about it, but told me he's busy. I read into that what you will. I think he's just, don't want to talk to me a bit, but there you go. So this one's from a new reader, actually, that inboxed me. So I appreciate you all the time. But anybody that drops questions, I'll always thank you. Always please do drop questions. So I do try my best to get them all out. Sometimes I get a few lost or we run a bit out of time, but I'll always carry them over. So this one comes from off Twitter, Sam Lear, which is a very good question, actually, but I will change it a little bit. So Sam asks, if we do get promoted, so when we do get promoted, do you think Michael Duff will look to bed in a new system alongside the 3-5-2, given the broader variety. I don't know. I didn't get that, JP. Don't laugh. Given the broader oh my God, variety of shapes in League One this season.
Yeah, Sam is a long-standing Cheltenham fan. Thanks for the question, Sam. Very knowledgeable and eloquent supporter and voice on message boards and social media platforms. I think Cheltenham have sort of got a bit of a plan B at the moment. They can go 5-4-1. They can also go 3-4-3. I don't think Duff will come away from the back three though. So you can interpret it in different ways, because sometimes this season Cheltenham have been 3-1-3 and then one sitter and then two attacking central midfielders. Sometimes they've had two sitting midfielders, one attacking midfielder. Sometimes they've played May, Lloyd and Williams, sort of a front three. I think Cambridge away it was Smith, May and Lloyd in a front three. So it was Smith down the middle, Lloyd and May either side. So I think all those little bits can be tweaked, but I don't think the back three will. The back three, I cannot see Duff unless it's late in the game and Cheltenham are chasing and Tozer sometimes gets pushed into midfield. I can't see Cheltenham moving away from the back three. But the rest of the sort of shape of the midfield and the starting positions, as Duff likes to talk about a lot, of the strikers could change. But I don't think he will come away from three at the back. But there is some versatility within it already.
I agree. And I suppose, like you mentioned a few times he's changed it. He's changed it in games as well, hasn't he? Quite a bit. It's in like 4-3-3 quite a bit. The 4-5, the 5-4-1 we mentioned, what we saw the weekend. So I think he already has the ability to change it in game. But I think you're right in terms of initially going into games. I think the three will stay.
Yeah,
well,
the Man City formation as well. I mean, there's going to be, if Cheltenham are in League One next season, which we all hope they will be, and we predicted that obviously they will be, Cheltenham could be going to Sunderland away next season.
It's incredible.
That's when it might be useful, when you're playing against a club with budget of their size, to be able to play 5-4-1 and just try and grind it out a bit, which Cheltenham did very well under John Ward in 06, 07 and 07, 08 under Keith Downing. They did that well. They went to places they had no right to get a result and came back with a point or 3 points.
Look at Leeds.
So I think that in terms of defensive resilience and organisation, they're going to have a good chance. The back five is ready, I think. Just need to sort of maybe strengthen the front of the team, because there will be changes. Some of them have done well. Some of them probably be disappointed with how much football they've played. Indy, we've mentioned him a lot of times, and he hasn't had much of a look in. But there will be changes to the squad, and I think that I don't think the back five needs much work. I think that's ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think it does. But you're right. I think it'll change at the top. I think that's where we'll see. We'll talk about transfers when the season ends, and all through the summer, I'm sure we'll continue to do shows when we talk about it. But I think what we will find is we'll be talking a lot about the top end of the team rather than the back, if you know what I mean. But second one from Sam. Now, I found this interesting, actually. I did smile a little bit, as you would. If you get it, you might smile. Do you think that the second most important Wade at Cheltenham Town, brackets being Wade Elliott, will stick around next season? Thanks for that, Sam. I appreciate that.
I think if Cheltenham get promoted, there's a lot more chance of them being able to keep, they definitely want to keep him. Michael Duff really gets on well with him, likes his opinions, likes his input with the attacking side of the team. So I think there's no doubt they want to keep him, and I think it will be a lot more likely if Cheltenham are in League One next season. Stay down in League Two, there might still be questions about whether they need it. I think he's not in every day at the moment. So Michael Duff spoke about this morning. He wasn't in on Monday when they were going through the clips with Oeorge Lloyd. He does all the games and he's in a bit during the week, but I think everyone at the club will want to see him in on a full-time basis, and I can see that being more likely if Cheltenham step up. So hopefully, because I think he has been popular with the lads. He's a trusted, friend, good addition to the staff, and a good friend to Michael Duff. So, but they're on merit. Obviously, had a great career. He's coached at He's coached at Stoke, done the 23s at Stoke. He's in terms of what he's been and achieved in his career, and again, a bit like Michael as well. He came from Bashley, non-league football,
Yeah.
worked his way up to play in the Premier League. So yeah, if they can possibly stretch and push the boat out, I think it would be a great addition, permanent to the staff.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, you see it more than we do, but he's always there, isn't he, in the stands, watching. And as soon as he sees something or notices something where he's got to get a message to Michael Duff, he's there. He's barking and he's shouting, even shouting to the players. I think the influence he's had on the players and had on the team, and also on Michael Duff since he's come in, has been absolutely brilliant. And of course, I hope he stays as well. But you're right. I think go up, there's probably a very, very good chance we see him stick around.
Yeah, and Russ as well. I mean, Russ, we can't forget that Russ won 2 promotions with Cheltenham as a player. He was there throughout the Gary Johnson era of promotion, the title win. Steve Book as well, goalkeeper coach. He won 2 promotions as a player at Cheltenham. And they've been around, they were there in the Steve Cottrell days, in the Yeovil games and the Rushden games. So it's great for them. And Russ, he doesn't really get much attention, Russ, does he? He just goes about his business quietly. But, he does a good job, and it can't be forgotten. But I think with Michael, Russ and Wade, Bookie chipping in, we know the medical and sports science department is excellent. It's a really strong backroom team. So, I think, again, looks like it's ready to go up and have a proper crack at it in League One.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about Russ and Bookie, obviously fantastic legends of the club, aren't they? Let's be honest. And their influence on the team as well. Just the whole coaching staff. You've got to, as much as it's about the players and getting a result on the pitch, you've got to take your hat off to those guys. And they work their socks off to. They're a huge reason why we are where we are. And every single one of them deserves the respect of everybody, to be fair. So, moving on from that one, I have got another one from Sam, but we're going to leave that one till last. I think it's a great place to finish. So, moving on, Don Pullen on Twitter asks, again, what's with all this? Ifs and buts. Come on, guys. If Cheltenham finish in the top 3, who do you think finishes in the playoffs and then goes on to win the playoffs? It always seems to me that the team who builds a bit of momentum and form and sneak in at the last minute seem to be the team that prevail.
Yes, quite often see the team that misses out on the top 3 doesn't go up. But in 01-02, Cheltenham missed out on the last day of the season and did still manage to go up in the playoffs, which was a great achievement. But normally, like Crewe did in 2012, they were the informed team. So I've got mixed feelings here because a few weeks ago I predicted Exeter to win the playoffs. Now I don't want to chop and change. Obviously, they've got a lot of work to do just to get in the playoffs now.
Well, they've got an interesting game on Saturday, actually, JP, because they play Newport 7th, and at the moment they're 3 points behind them and 9 goals better off goal difference wise.
Huge game. I think Forest Green were plummeting, weren't they? Now they've got Jimmy Ball in charge. Jimmy Ball has introduced positivity, got everyone together again. I think they've taken 4 points from 2 under Jimmy Ball, and you can't rule them out.
No,
I think I'm just going to have to stick, because I only made it a few weeks ago. I'm going to stick with my prediction, which was Cambridge, Cheltenham, and Bolton automatically, and Exeter in the playoffs. That's what I predicted. Unfortunately, I think Morecambe would be a great story if they go up.
Yeah.
And Tranmere, I've got a lot of time for Keith Hill as a bloke and a good club. But I'm not going to flip flop. I'm going to stick with Exeter, even though they've got work to do to get in there. If they can get themselves in there, maybe they will have that momentum. And I think Matt Taylor's done a great job there, and they got some of the best. They got some of the best players in the division there. So there's some real talent there. So it'd be quite a good little story if Cheltenham go up automatically, and Exeter, who got battered in the final last year, go up via the playoffs finally, because they're always knocking on the door, aren't they, Exeter?
Yeah, the 2 teams that missed out last year go up this year.
Yeah, and it would be a localish game for Cheltenham in League 2 as well, League 1, next season as well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. But wow, I think when we spoke last, when we did our predictions, I had Bolton 3rd. I said they'll come up automatically with us, worse than Cambridge. And I was looking today, right? I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I think you're right in terms of Exeter. Because I looked at it, although Morecambe are the form team, they've won 3 straight, they are flying. So if they miss out, they are taking form in. But I looked at Exeter's remaining games, and 3 of their final 4 games are at home. They've got Newport on Saturday, huge game. They could go
Yeah.
above them on, like I said, 9 goal. There's a 9 goal swing on goal difference in favour of Exeter there. Then they've got Grimsby at home. Grimsby probably already be down then, I believe. So they're not saying that, you know, they're not going to turn up, but they probably won't, you know. Morrow will be down. Exeter probably will beat them at home. Then they've got Bolton away, which is going to probably be a difficult game. Depending on how Bolton's game plays out on Saturday, that could be the game that Bolton could be up by then with automatics, depending on how results go with Morecambe in the meantime. But then they got Barrow at home again on the final day. I just look at their fixtures and think they're the team that if any team is going to break in it, because you look at the table, right? You've got Exeter and Salford both on 62. Then you've got Leyton Orient obviously on 61. So you'd say realistically, Exeter and Salford have probably got the better chance of any team below the top 7 now to break it. But I just feel Exeter have got the better chance than Salford. I just think they'll be the ones that could break it. And if they get in there, like you mentioned, you look at that squad, absolutely stacked with talent. Absolutely, they've got a strike force there that would be lethal in League One. And I think when it comes down to knockout games, obviously I know you get 2 legs in the semi-finals, but when it comes down to the crunch, I think they will be one of the teams that will rise to the occasion. Outside of that, I think it could be Morecambe, but if they get in, they'll be playing Morecambe in the semi-finals, depending on how Forest Green go. I think if Exeter do get in, it'll be through 7th. As much as I don't want Forest Green in there, I think you've got to give credit where it's due, even though I hate saying that. You know, they've seemed to have turned it round. So I don't, unless something explodes again, I don't think that they'll drop out. So I think they'll take it off Newport, and I think they'll get in. I think, in my opinion, I think Exeter will win through the playoffs. So I agree with you on that one, John. Another question from Dom. He asked, and this is an interesting one, who is both of your player of the season so far? Wow. Yeah, player of the season. Yeah, he says mine is Ben Tozer.
Well, mine, I would give Josh Griffiths Young Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And Player of the Year this season is particularly tough, but obviously Tozer won it last season, didn't he? Supporters player. I think it's between Blair. Well, there's quite a few that could win it, but I think my top 3 would probably be. You know how much I love watching Chris Hussey play. Circum's been brilliant. Blair would be in there. Boyle's been brilliant at times. May had a purple patch, although he probably hasn't been scoring consistently enough throughout the season. 12 is pretty good.
It's decent.
Thomas has been probably sort of most improved again, kicked on again. But all things considered, he's played all 42 games so far. Captain, leader, long throw. I think it's going to be Tozer again, 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with Dom. How can not be? The man's played every game. It's just incredible. He doesn't seem to be affected by it either. He just every as the games go on and on and on, he seems to just stand above everybody, and he's fantastic. But you know how much I love Connor Thomas. I rave about him week in, week out because he's the engine of this team. Personally, if I could vote, I probably would go for Thomas because he does the gritty stuff that, you know, a lot does go unnoticed. It does go under the radar. I think he's been fantastic. Will Boyle, you know, look how much he's stepped up this year. How many goals? You take away Boyle's goals, we're nowhere near this where we are now. Probably not even the playoffs. So you've got to take that into account. But just basically just for how consistent he's been and how good he's been, and that block against Man City. I know it's more about the league, but that block against Man City, I saw it again today actually. Wow. I mean, how can it not be Ben Tozer?
Yeah. Got to give Charlie Ragdon a mention as well, Tom, because he's the one member of that back 5 I haven't mentioned yet. He's been brilliant as well. So
this is the thing, though. You go through it, and it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. Every player deserves something. Yeah.
Obviously, Boyle's injured at the moment, and Ragdon doesn't miss many games, but he did have a couple. He had the back spasm at Cambridge, and he's had the little groin injury recently. He's come back well from it, but I think so. You can give it to any of the back 5 or Thomas, but I think Tozer edges it for me because he has played every game, and he's not had many bad games. or if any bad
hardly.
games. Yeah.
And I got to give a special mention to Charlie Raglan for the back and forth about the headband gate on on Twitter. That was brilliant. What a bloke, top lad. And you're right. Another player who's so like important to the back line.
Yeah, you can't take him for granted. He's very important. The way that he links up with Blair he's sometimes again probably a bit of an unsung hero at times, but he's a warrior.
Yeah, he really is. And I think young players got to be Josh Griffiths. We spoke a few episodes, I don't know how many he's done now. What's this, 5? So probably about 2 or 3 ago, maybe. Can't even remember. But as we mentioned, where we said he was getting a little bit of stick because he was still learning. But to achieve what he's about to achieve, and still could potentially achieve, most clean sheets in the league, a promotion, and looking at his age, he's an England call up. It's crazy, isn't it? He will deserve that. He will get it for me.
Finn's been good, but I think Josh, again, consistency. Finn's got a good, bright future ahead of him. Callum Wright's made a good impact since January, but I think Josh to come in, he just turned 19 on his day of his debut, and he's been the way that he's recovered to those mistakes he has made. And quite excited to see what he goes on to achieve. Being a relatively local lad, lives in Ledbury, so he's not far away. I think he will be going with everyone's best wishes at the end of the season. Hopefully goes on to have a really good career at the top.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him back for one more in League One. I don't know. I doubt it, but I can only hope. Right then, we're going to end it on one final little fun question that I had through, if I can find it through all these banter notes. Here we go. It's back to Sam. And Sam Lear, he asks, what is the strangest thing you've ever seen happen at Cheltenham Town?
What, on the pitch? Any specific specification there, or just anything at all?
Just anything at all.
Okay, well, the funniest thing, I didn't actually see it myself, but the funniest thing that's happened since I've been involved with Cheltenham Town, I would say, is Martin Allen having the players training with toast. So you might have heard the story, but I'm not saying this to make fun of Martin Allen necessarily, because some of his madness and his methods worked, and he did have some success at some clubs with his motivational tactics, but this one was particularly eccentric. So it was before the Doncaster FA Cup game in 2008-9 season, and Cheltenham were in a hotel room, and he had them working on set pieces with pieces of toast. So Scott Brown was in goal. I can't remember who was taking the free kicks or the deliveries into the box, but they were literally launching pieces of toast into the box and then trying to put it past Scott Brown. And just to sort of round it off, and you can't help but sort of admire his ingenuity or comedy value to try and get the players together. But when they left the dressing room at Doncaster, he pinned a piece of toast to the door. So that's what I've been told by many of the players involved. Didn't witness it myself, but it's a great story. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, Sam, in terms of comical moments. But there's been some hilarious moments over the years. I mean, Steve Book, there's a great picture of Steve Book getting some treatment on a groin injury back in the non-league days where the physio was putting a sort of sponge down his shorts. There's a great picture of him looking a bit shocked. that was quite an entertaining one. He's just a funny bloke all round, Steve Book. There was a streaker, Cheltenham Town's first ever Football League game. Wouldn't say it was the funniest thing I've ever seen, but it was quite funny. Streaker, the Rochdale game, got arrested. Cheltenham's first game in the league. So security was tight. First game in the Football League, over 5,000 in the ground, and the naked bloke runs onto the pitch, runs around for a little bit, and just walks off because they didn't make any attempt to stop him. They just let him do it, and then peacefully just led him away.
The novelty wore off.
Yeah, but Martin Allen's post training is particularly funny. But I could write a book on it, Tom. Really, to be honest with you, some of the stuff that I've seen over the last 20 years.
I think it's something we're going to have to do. I mean, the Martin Allen thing, I heard about it at the time. I forgot about that, but that was kind of weird hearing that on the way up. He's had him training the night before, because obviously, I won't mention names, but at the time I knew somebody while in with the team there at that period, and when he mentioned it to us, a bit weird. I was like, okay, a bit random. Did it work? And it's one of them, isn't it? It's kind of weird, but for me, it's not really that strange. But it's strange when you think about it. my one, it's strange when you think about the concept of it and where the bloke I'm about to mention has been and what he's achieved and all the hype he's had. But the strangest one for me is actually on the pitch, and it was just so weird. I don't remember the year. It was definitely in the days where he started losing the plot. Unfortunately, I hope he's better now. But you remember when Gaza was player manager at Boston United?
Yeah.
Played at One Road. He come on. I think he come on for like a couple of minutes. That was just. And I was stood and I was just like, that is the most weird thing ever. Like watching Cheltenham, never ever would I have expected that to happen.
I don't think he was manager, was he, Tom? I think he managed Kettering for a while, but I think I think Steve Evans was manager of Boston when Gaza was there. I think so, yeah.
Was he coaching or something then?
He's probably player coach. I remember him coming on, and he just, he wasn't in a good way, was he?
No.
I still remember all the Cheltenham players sort of queuing up to speak to him and shake his hand and try and get his shirt after the game because he was that much of a legend.
Yeah. So, it was just strange.
Cheltenham won the game.
They did. It was weird to see. It was just so strange. Like Gaza playing at One Road for Boston United. It's just like, wow. No offense. I think that would have been
about 04, I reckon that would have been.
Would it? 04?
04, wow. Yeah.
Wow, I can't go back that far, to be honest. The memories, I told you before we recorded, my memory is just not there. It's just, can't remember what I did yesterday, to be fair. But yeah, that was probably one of the strangest ones. Another one, personally, we went away. Do you remember when we beat Mansfield, went to Mansfield and Grant McCann scored that hell of a goal from the short corner?
Yep.
Beat him. Was it 5-1 that day?
5-0, yeah.
Sure. 5-0, we beat him. Yeah. I took the drum, right, on the BB15 this is. I took the drum and we was all there in this pub. And there's like a pub, you got like a bar, outdoor decking, bit of a pond or whatever. And I won't go too much detail because of the younger audience, but I remember it very, very well. Everyone was like, where's the drumstick gone? Where's the drumsticks gone? My mate had lost them, one of the lads lost them. And the woman just kindly decided she was going to put them down the trousers. And that's probably one of the strangest moments I've ever been in, trying to work out where they've been. But I think I'll leave that one on there. That's me done for the strange moments, but nothing like yours, JP. I think we've got to definitely do something at the end of the season where you just come on and we just hear it all.
I've got some stories. I've far too many to go into now, but yeah, first thing that sprung into my mind was the Martin Allen methods of hotel suite training sessions. When you haven't got a ball, why not use a piece of toast? And I think Lee Ridley was putting long throws in and things like that with his toast. Ashley Vincent was trying to get on the end of it and head it past Scott Brown. And but pinning the piece of toast to the dressing room door just rounded it off.
Yeah, it just capped it off.
Game 3-0.
Yeah, and it all went downhill from there.
Set pieces as well.
Yeah, that probably. I just think it's weird. Toast, of all the other things, like the fruits you could come up with, you know what I mean? Stick an orange in there. Apple. Yeah, an apple. I've probably hurt though, to be honest, wouldn't it? Actually, Vincent's out today, lads. Why is he out? Because he had an apple. All right, yeah. Cheers. Oh man, JP, thank you again. It's been an absolute honour for joining me. It's been great to catch up again and chat.
No problem, Tom. Thanks to everyone who sent the questions in. Some good stuff.
Thanks to everybody. Yeah, some great ones. If there's been any that are late, I promise we'll get them on next week. But I think I tend to check last minute just to make sure. But thanks everybody. Of course, who's tuned in and watched. Please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. A bit of a mission. I want to try and get this as big as I possibly can and just keep the content coming for you guys. Of course, get your opinions in. Leave a comment underneath. If you don't agree with what we say, if you've got a take on anything, then, drop them below. And especially if you've got any strange moments, I feel like this could be a thing. So I know a few guys that probably have got some strange moments. So drop them in the comments below. Once again, JP, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure, Tom. Cheers.
Anytime. Thanks to our sponsors, Luke 1977. Go to luke1977.com to shop their spring and summer collection. And of course, before I go, we've now got a website. It's therobinsreport.co.uk. Basically, all it'll be is, rather than scrolling for YouTube, I'll put the videos up in order as we post them each week. Click there, read about it. Click the link, it brings you straight to here. And there'll also be some other fun things I'm going to do with a few people on that one as well, just to get you, especially with the fans, get you guys involved. I know a few of you have got some great memories, but you, so, I don't know why, might be a bit shy to come on camera. So there's something else we can probably do. So yeah, once again, guys, fingers crossed that by the time we are recording, all this background that you see and everything you see is going to change, and Town get the job done. All the best, everybody. Have a great week. Enjoy the games. Until next week, come on, you Robins.